Ever since man first set foot in this valley, some 10,000 years ago, it seems he's been chasing rainbows of one kind or another. For most of this time, the Ute Indians and their ancestors used the area as their summer hunting grounds, chasing game attracted to the rich grasslands. The first organized group of white men didn't show up until 1870, a bunch of German colonists from Chicago whose dreams of becoming successful farmers vanished with the first snows of winter. About the same time, promising strikes of gold and silver lured hordes of prospectors into the valley and the surrounding mountains. But after a number of years of boom and bust mining, the ore eventually petered out, and those who sought it moved on to other parts. Today, a different kind of dream lures newcomers to the area, something called quality of life. Some claim it's as rare as precious metal and just about as likely to disappear. We'll get back to this thought in a few minutes, but first, I want to tell you about a place that's close to my heart. My name is Tom Flower, and I'm real proud to call the valley my home. Officially, it's known as the Wet Mountain Valley, and it occupies much of Custer County in the south-central part of Colorado. The valley stretches north-south for about 30 miles and is nestled between the peaks of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains on the west and the rolling hills of the Wet Mountains to the east. Mountains have always controlled life here in the valley. It's our mountains that dominate our view, regulate our climate, and provide our lifeblood, water, in the form of rainfall and snowmelt. But in the late 1800s, it was the discovery of another gift from the mountains that attracted thousands of people to the area, which led to the birth of our two towns, Westcliff and Silver Cliff.
The discovery of silver in the Wet Mountain Valley changed things in a big way. It started us on the same boom and bust cycle that many mountain western towns have had to go through. Boom and bust is based on the silver itself, but it's also based on the restless nature of people in the West, moving from one Shangri-La to another, shall we say. It also had a point in history too. It was the end of the Civil War. There were many footloose and fancy-free and troubled individuals that were getting away from that environment and from that horrible experience. The West was new for many people. It was a new place to go. It meant new opportunities. It meant new chance for lots of folks. So the mining communities grew, and they grew from that kind of impetus, from people who were looking to get rich quick, frankly. Silver Cliff grew in a very rapid way. There were over 1,000 mining claims were staked in 3 days at one short period in Silver Cliff's history. And with the miners, of course, come all the entrepreneurs, the people who feed off of the miners, the ones who have to supply them, the ones that give them their recreation, the ones that feed them. All of the things that go with commerce in every way follow the miners around. So the town of Silver Cliff itself also grew at a surprising rate. It grew from 7 city blocks to 185 city blocks in a short span of 2.5 months. Now that kept everybody busy, road builders, the surveyors, the construction workers, all the people that come with building a town.
Silver Cliff was the county seat at the time. It had a population of several thousand. And about that time, General William Jackson Palmer of the DNRG Railroad brought a railroad into the valley about a mile west of Silver Cliff. And that became the town of Westcliff. He was a pretty smart cookie. He knew that development would occur around the railroad property and so forth, and that's what happened. After the silver mines closed and that industry virtually collapsed, we ended up with two little towns that for years, Silver Cliff especially, were nearly ghost towns. Back again in the 50s and early 60s, the population of the two towns was considerably less than 500 people. Then we started to have a little bit of a renewal in the 60s and early 70s, prompted primarily by the formation of the Conquistador ski area. The ski area has since failed, but for about a 10 to 15 year period, it was really in the forefront of what was going on in the community. If you stand in downtown Westcliff and take a look at the mountains, that's the first thing you see is the ski area. It brought in lots of ski bums. It brought in people who were involved in land speculation and that kind of thing. So that was an era when it was a very big change in the whole dynamics of what goes on in the Wet Mountain Valley. After that, we had more growth with summer cabin trade, and that evolved into people moving here year-round. A lot of times people couldn't either afford Aspen or Telluride, but they fell in love with the mountains, and this was an option for them. And so we've had tremendous growth in the 1980s, somewhere around 80%, leading up to our current population of about 3,500. Over the last 20 years, we've had an influx of people from all around the country, particularly from urban areas, people thinking they're going to live this Wild West sort of life. But all of a sudden, you get maybe a 1,000-acre ranch that gets busted up into 35, 40-acre parcels, and you plop down one of these guys on one of these little ranchettes, and all of a sudden they've got neighboring cows eating flowers off your porch. You've got fence issues with your next-door neighbor. You've got hellacious storms where the county road crew might not get to you for about a week. And all of a sudden, the appeal of the West isn't quite so appealing.
You know, it's hard to imagine this place without any mountains. But over 1 billion years ago, that's the way it was. In fact, believe it or not, this whole area was once under an ocean. The ocean floor gradually hardened into sedimentary rock. And that was the start of a mountain building process so amazing and so complex, it takes a good geologist to explain it.
Sedimentary rocks are laid down close to horizontal. So when we see crumpled, folded rocks like those behind me, it indicates there's been compression or folding. And this is a classic example here of anticlines and synclines, folded rocks. They were compressed during mountain building, and then later the whole block of the Wet Mountains was uplifted. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains was uplifted higher as a big block, taking these shallow shoreline deposits 10, 12, 14,000 feet above sea level. The Wet Mountains apparently were not glaciated by alpine glaciers because they weren't high enough. In contrast, the Sangre de Cristos, which were considerably higher, had alpine glaciers throughout the Ice Age, and the Sangre de Cristos are much more angular, and they have lots of glacial lakes. They show the effects of glacial erosion.
Ranching is by far the most visible occupation around these parts, but it certainly isn't the most lucrative. Rising fuel prices, fluctuating markets, and fickle weather can all combine to give a rancher a headache. At 6 or 7 years of age, ranch kids have a full list of chores and grow up with an early education in agriculture and livestock. Calving season is an especially busy time. Along with their regular work, ranchers have to check on pregnant heifers and cows every few hours, day or night. If a blizzard hits, they haul hay to the herd and pray the temperature doesn't drop too low.
Sleep on a bedroll of canvas, no seams feed on your ears. Wind blows the dust just like buckshot. It don't rain much out here. Smell your own sweat in the evening. Wash up at the gown.
Oh, Kevin.
The nearest town's 40 miles. The cook here, he don't smile. And all these young
Come on, boys.
voices are rank. But come a time
Come on, boys.
on the back of my caballo, mine will be towering on when I can.
No fighting around the pickup.
A spring in the
Right there's a heifer calving right there, and you can tell she's kind of clueless. She doesn't know what's going on, but she's wanting to lay down, and you can tell she's calving. She's got a tight bag, which indicates that she's ready to have a calf to start giving milk to, and she's holding her tail out. She's real springy, which means she's real loose around where the calf comes out. She's about to push her first water bag out. They'll have 2 water bags. Once they do that, and it'll break, then you can see the toes, and toes are pointed up and the dew claws are down. That means the calf's frontwards, and that's great. And if the toes are pointed down, dew claws up, then that means it's backwards, and that's not always a good thing, because you usually have to pull them because their butt comes first, and then their head stays in there, and they can drown if she doesn't get them out fast enough.
Well, most of the time, calving season isn't a big problem. We do a lot of it out of our pickup, a lot of checking the cows, and just kind of keeping an eye on things. But every once in a while, we'll get this cow that for some reason decides she wants to make it a problem. And next thing you know, cow's in the chute, got her tail tied up out of the way, and the only thing left to do is stick your hand in there and find out what in the world's going on.
Don't mind for right now. We're just helping, Mama. Yeah, we're just helping. Oh yeah, there's one foot. Okay, can you slide that chain up above the dew claws? There we go. There we go. Welcome to the world, little booger. There we go. I reached in there. I had to break the sack from around him in the whole 9 yards, and
Was he pointing the right direction?
oh yeah, he was fine. I figured he'd be breech. When I looked at her, I just knew we were gonna pull one backwards.
Yeah.
I reached in there and he bit me on the finger.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah. I knew then we had a live calf and it's coming the right direction.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
My husband and I are working with our every fiber to make certain that this remains home for as many generations in the future of this family and of San Isabel Ranch's history want to go forward. And we've taken steps to ensure that, but we're facing challenges that maybe what were once the days of the Ute Indians in the Wet Mountain Valley and in Custer County now are the days of rapid growth and change. And so we're having to change our dynamics and our way of thinking and think outside of the box somewhat to make certain that we can go into the future with a competitive edge in the industry, but with survival within the valley, and it includes land and water, the two most precious resources for nearly every business within Custer County and outside of Custer County, being that that's your lifeblood. That's what sustains your families and your homes. It's what gives real estate its value, its beautiful scenic vistas, but it also is the entire heartbeat of a ranch. And if you don't have enough open space, you don't have enough good land stewardship and enough ground to function in a safe and productive environment, ranches won't survive. I am humbled by how much we have yet to learn about agriculture and land and animals, and trying to really manage them in a sustainable long-term vision. It's a never-ending process that I've chosen as this occupation as my whole life, and I love it enough to be its student. And Mike and I are just dedicated to being this industry's students and trying to better ourselves and our family, but continuing that tradition that started 134 years ago.
Here on this outfit, everybody's expected to chip in and help here regardless of age. My dad's 75. He shows up every day. Then my wife and I and 4 kids, Ben, Autumn, Caitlin, and Weldon, are the other part of it. In the fall time, hopefully we're done haying and then everybody gets to go help gather. And the end of September, while we ship cattle, and we'd rather use our own family and not have too much help gathering yearlings for weighing, because everybody understands how we handle the cattle, nice and quiet, so we don't shrink them any. Only thing that we don't have overabundance of help on is fixing fence. No, if you want to see people hide, just mention fence for that day. People can evaporate, kids can hide under couches and under beds, and they just don't want to be found.
Custer County is blessed with some wonderful soils, enough water, and enough sunlight to grow some high-quality hay here in the valley. And Custer County hay is some of the best quality hay in all of Colorado and even within the western part of the United States. This hay is a cool season grass that grows during the cooler part of the season, which is basically all of the season for Custer County, because our growing season is about 70 days long. And so it stays very cool here, which is very conducive to growing a lot of cool season hay, like brome grass and timothy grass and a number of other types of grass hays. The soils in the valley are very conducive to growing that hay as well, and plus the fact that we get snow melt off the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, we have irrigation water available for this grass hay. The other reason that it becomes so high quality is the sunlight that comes and hits this grass. And because the intense sunlight, and for the number of hours that we have sunlight, those grass plants can consume a lot of that sunlight and transfer it into protein, which makes it a very high quality type of hay that people really desire throughout Custer County, as well as throughout Colorado and states beyond Colorado.
I started out by driving a team that pulled a 5-foot sickle bar mower and cut hay, fed cattle off of a loose rack hay wagon that was pulled by horses, and in the wintertime it would be a sled. That activity has given way to tractors, and larger tractors. I lament the horse activity, the horse-drawn mowers. When I would go to the barn in the mornings and the horse would nicker to you, is really a welcome. The tractors don't say anything.
Now, ranching isn't the only profession that's difficult here in the valley. Here in town, restaurants and store owners have a particularly tough time. The tourist season only lasts a few months every year, and things can get awfully quiet around here in the winter. Whether by force or choice, a lot of folks have taken to wearing more than one hat in order to make a living.
I don't think I've ever worked harder in my life than I have here. Trying to make ends meet in a small community when you only have really 2.5 months of tourism, then you have to do other things to make yourself go. We've got about 4,000 people, I think, in Custer County, and about 2,000 live here full time is all. And then you figure that when the weathers are bad or whatever, they're not going to come to town because they can't make it in. And it is a hard little town, but at the same time, it's so beautiful. Summers we are just crazy, and that's a good thing. But with that comes more employees, more insurance, more food. So it's the same. It kind of weighs itself out throughout the year. And that's hard because I know if I was located someplace else, I'd probably make a fortune. I guess I'm not going for the fortune, I'm going for the mountains and my kids and their upbringing in a small community. I still have a beauty shop here in West Cliff. I started out with my beauty shop in a boutique. And on Thursdays is really the only time I get to go there, but it's kind of my unwinding time. And I love to do it, and I love to have it that one day a week, but I really wouldn't want to do it any more than that at this point because I did it for so long.
Okay, we'll put the same, we'll do the same orientation where the handles, we'll do the same orientation where the handles, look up, bueno. And we'll go ahead and put a 6-incher in each one of them also. So, lad, we're going to do the same thing, only using those ball valves that Louie's got for you here. You know that's an interesting idea, what we were talking about the other day, that business about making an all cowboy record.
I think it's almost one of those,
just
ridiculously simple.
Goofy little short measure. I know when we first started working that out, I couldn't ever get a mandolin lick to fit in that because that measure is only half the length of what a typical mandolin, that typical mandolin phrasing.
There was a cowboy I knew in South Texas. His face was burned deep by the sun. Part history, part sage, part mesquite. He was there when Pancho Villa was young, and he'd tell you a tale of the old days when the country was wild all around. Go out under the stars of the Milky Way, listen to the coyotes howl.
We came here 7 years ago. That would be about
99 or 2000, not knowing exactly what it would be like to bring these boys into this fairly rural, fairly remote area as they grow up through that transitional time. And oddly enough, the music started to really develop for us just concurrently with when we moved. And then the valley was really beautiful in the way that the people here in the valley embraced the young man. They saw my boys first when we all hit a job site and came piling out of the truck and started toting pipe into a job and plumb like madmen, and then go away. And then the next time they'd see us, we would be down at the Oak Creek Great General Store doing a dinner show. One of the things that we're really tickled about is this deal where we live in this little remote mountain valley, and we have these wonderful music events multiple times a year, and the idea that the community will turn out and support this diverse musical presentations, from bluegrass to jazz to we've got a classical concert association that's putting on classical concerts, and like this upcoming 2 weeks from now we got Wet Mountain Western Days, and we'll have everything from top Texas swing band down to some 6-year-old kids soaring away on a fiddle in the fiddle contest. So it's the community really grabs all of those things and supports them, and it gives us a real cultural advantage. It's a real cultural addition to the lifestyle that we get to enjoy here, is that you can get a lot of different musical presentations right here, and right here within the valley.
There's some folks around here that aren't too keen about newcomers moving to the valley. New faces can bring new ideas, I suppose, and for some, that can be a scary proposition. Now, newcomers, there's an interesting word. 150 years ago, there weren't any white faces in these parts, other than a few mountain men. In a way, we're all newcomers to the valley, all of us from someplace else. These days, most of our newcomers arrive with a healthy respect for what's here, the beauty of nature, the slow pace of life, and small town values. And many of these folks bring talents and creative ideas that add value to our